Welcome to Empathy Stories, where we share extraordinary tales of kindness and resilience that touch the heart and inspire hope. Today's story follows actor Keanu Reeves as he notices a struggling mother and her baby living in a car. And what he does next will move you beyond words. Stay tuned. On a cold, quiet evening, the hum of life seemed subdued, with a gentle breeze carrying a crisp chill through the air. Keanu Reeves, an internationally known actor, had just finished a long but fulfilling day. After wrapping up filming earlier than expected, he decided to stop by a nearby supermarket to pick up a few groceries, enjoying the rare chance to reconnect with the everyday mundanities of life. These moments, shopping carts, checkout lines, parking lots, grounded him, offering a sense of normalcy amid the chaos of fame. As he exited the store, carrying 2 shopping bags, his pace slowed. He adjusted the hood of his jacket, glancing around the parking lot, a habit born of years of being both observed and observant. Something in the corner of the lot caught his attention. A beat-up car, decades old and rusted, stood apart from the rest of the vehicles. Its windows were fogged up, and inside, clothes hung over the back seat, swaying gently as the wind whispered around them. Keanu frowned, a subtle unease washing over him. He wasn't sure what it was at first, but his instincts told him to linger. Near the car, a woman was pushing shopping carts back toward the store. Her clothes were worn and ill-fitting, and her movements were slow, each step carrying an invisible weight. Her shoulders were hunched, her eyes darting nervously, as though she were trying to remain unseen. The connection was immediate, as if an invisible thread had tugged at Keanu's heart. He watched her closely, not in judgment but with curiosity and concern. Something about the way she glanced back at the car repeatedly, like it was her only refuge, made his chest tighten. Could that car be her home? The thought was unsettling, yet it made sense. Keanu approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "Hi," he said softly, his voice warm and inviting. The woman froze mid-motion, her hands gripping the shopping cart tightly. Her eyes met his for a fleeting moment before darting away, her expression guarded. She was clearly uncomfortable, unsure of his intentions. "Are you okay? Is there any way I can help?" he asked, keeping a respectful distance. "No. I'm fine. Thank you," she replied quickly, her voice cold yet shaky, betraying a mix of fear and pride. She stepped back, gripping the cart as if it were a shield. Her movements hurried. Keanu nodded, understanding her need for space. "All right," he said gently. "If you need anything, I'll be around." Without another word, she returned to the car, opening the door and slipping inside. Through the fogged window, Keanu caught a glimpse of her holding a small baby wrapped in mismatched blankets. His breath caught in his throat. The silhouette of the baby, tiny and shifting in her arms, painted a clearer picture of their struggle. As Keanu walked back to his own car, the image stayed with him, etched into his mind. The woman, so visibly exhausted, and her baby, bundled up in an old, drafty car on a freezing night. It was more than he could bear. When he started his engine, his hands lingered on the steering wheel, his thoughts swirling. How could he leave them like that? That night, sleep eluded him. The mother and child haunted his thoughts. He couldn't shake the image of her pushing shopping carts with weary determination, trying to earn what little she could to survive. He couldn't forget the way she clutched her child protectively, as though the world could take him away at any moment. The next morning, Keanu found himself back in the supermarket parking lot. driven by an urge to do something. The old car was still there, parked in the same corner, its windows fogged up again. He spotted the woman carrying a plastic bag toward the vehicle, her movements just as weary as the night before. This time, he brought something with him, a bottle of mineral water and a new blanket. He didn't approach her directly. Instead, he placed the items gently on the hood of the car, ensuring they were visible but not intrusive. Then, he stepped back to his car and waited. Moments later, the woman opened the car door and noticed the items. She froze, her eye scanning the parking lot for the mysterious benefactor. After a long hesitation, she grabbed the bottle and blanket, holding them close as though they were rare treasures. Kiana watched silently, feeling both relief and frustration. He had done something, but it felt like a drop in the ocean compared to what she needed. Driving away, Kiana resolved to return. He couldn't ignore the profound sadness and resilience he had seen in her. He didn't know her story yet, but he knew one thing: he wouldn't let her and her child face the world alone. The next day, Keanu Reeves found himself once again driving toward the same supermarket parking lot. The image of Sarah and her baby, Noah, haunted him. He couldn't shake the look of exhaustion in her eyes or the way she clutched her child as if shielding him from an unforgiving world. There was a story there, a life full of struggles and heartbreak. And Keanu felt an unshakable need to help. As he parked, he immediately noticed her car. It was still in the same corner, its windows fogged over, with clothing draped across the back seat. A makeshift home. A few meters away, Sarah was pushing shopping carts again, her movement slow and tired. Keanu waited, watching for the right moment to approach. He wanted to make sure she felt safe. This time, he brought more than water and a blanket. Keanu had packed a small bag with powdered milk, diapers, and baby wipes. As Sarah returned to her car, Keanu walked toward her, his step steady but non-threatening. "Hi," he said softly as he approached. She turned to face him, startled, clutching a plastic bag in one hand. "I'm the guy who left the water and the blanket yesterday," Keanu explained, keeping a respectful distance. "I hope you didn't feel uncomfortable." Sarah looked at him warily, her eyes guarded but curious. "You? Why?" Her tone was more an accusation than a question, her pride still intact despite her struggles. "I saw you and your baby here, and I thought you might need them," Keanu replied, his voice calm and sincere. "That's all. I'm not here to invade your space or make you feel small. I just want to help. If you'll let me." Sarah hesitated, her grip tightening on the bag she carried. "Thank you for the water and the blanket," she said cautiously, her tone softening ever so slightly. Keanu nodded. "You're welcome. If there's anything else you need, please don't hesitate to ask." A faint cry from the car interrupted their conversation. Sarah's expression changed immediately, her motherly instincts kicking in. She opened the car door, revealing Noah bundled in mismatched blankets. As she rocked him gently, Keanu noticed her hands trembling, whether from cold or exhaustion. He couldn't tell. "Do you need anything for him?" Keanu asked gently. "Formula? Diapers? Anything at all?" Sarah froze, clearly wrestling with an internal conflict. Keanu could see the battle between her pride and her desperation play out in her eyes. Finally, her shoulders slumped, and she murmured, "Milk. He needs milk." Keanu smiled softly, relieved that she was willing to accept help. "Wait here. I'll be back in a few minutes." He headed into the supermarket, quickly gathering the supplies Noah would need: powdered milk, diapers, and a pack of wipes. When he returned, Sarah was standing outside the car, her expression a mix of skepticism and hope. Kiana handed her the bag without saying much, letting the gesture speak for itself. "Thank you," Sarah said quietly, holding the bag close to her chest as if it were the most precious gift she had ever received. "You don't need to thank me," Kiana replied. "You're doing an amazing job, even if it doesn't feel like it right now." Sarah glanced at him, her expression softening. They weren't supposed to be like this," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. "I never imagined my life turning out this way." Kiana could sense the depth of pain in her words. They weren't just a statement, they were a cry for help. An acknowledgement of the weight she had been carrying for too long. He wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault, that she wasn't alone. But he knew words alone wouldn't be enough. Instead, Kiana focused on building trust, one small step at a time. The next evening, he returned to the parking lot with more supplies and left them discreetly by her car door. This time, he included a handwritten note: "You're not alone. Please let me help you." When Sarah found the note and the supplies the next morning, her emotions were conflicted. She wanted to reject it, to hold on to the fragile sense of control she had over her life. But as she held Noah in her arms and looked at the bag of diapers and formula, she felt something shift inside her. This wasn't about pride anymore, it was about giving her son the chance he deserved. Later that day, when Kiana returned to the parking lot, Sarah was waiting for him. She stepped out of her car, holding Noah tightly, and called out before he could approach. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "This means a lot." Kiana smiled. "I'm glad it helped. If there's anything else you need, just let me know." Sarah hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "I don't usually talk about this, but my husband passed away last year. And after that, everything fell apart. I don't know how I got here, but it's been hard." Kiana nodded, his expression serious but empathetic. "You don't have to explain everything right now. I just want you to know that you're not alone. Whatever you're facing, we'll figure it out together." For the first time in months, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. She didn't know where this newfound connection with Kiana would lead, but she could see that his intentions were genuine. And that small spark of hope, however fragile, was enough to make her believe that better days might still lie ahead. The next morning, Kiana arrived at the parking lot with a clear plan in mind. Sarah's life had been stripped to its bare essentials, and he knew the first step was giving her and Noah a safe space to breathe. As he parked, he saw her sitting on the curb, cradling Noah in her arms. Her gaze was distant, her posture a blend of exhaustion and resignation. But there was also something different, a flicker of trust in the way she looked up when she saw him approaching. "Hi, Sarah," Kiana said gently, stopping a few steps away. "I hope you don't mind me coming back. I brought something for you and Noah." She hesitated, still clutching Noah tightly, but nodded. Kiana handed her a small envelope. Inside was a key, an address to a nearby motel, and enough cash for a few days of meals. "It's a room at a quiet, safe motel," he explained. "Just for you and Noah. You don't have to sleep in the car tonight." Sarah's breath hitched as she looked at the key, her grip on it tightening. I don't know if I can accept this," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "This isn't charity," Kiana said firmly but kindly. "It's help. We all need it sometimes." Please. Just let me do this for you. She stared at him for a long moment. The battle between her pride and her desperation playing out again. Finally, she nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Kiana smiled softly. I'll drive behind you to make sure you get there safely. The motel was modest but clean. A stark contrast to the cold and cramped car Sarah had called home. As she unlocked the door and stepped inside, the warmth of the room enveloped her. There was a proper bed, fresh sheets, and a small crib for Noah. For the first time in months, Sarah felt a sense of safety. She laid Noah down in the crib, covering him with a blanket, and watched him fall into a peaceful sleep. The tears she had been holding back finally spilled over. A mix of relief and overwhelming gratitude. On the nightstand, Kiana had left a note, "You're not alone. We're in this together." Outside, Kiana sat in his car, staring at the glowing windows of the motel. His mind raced with thoughts of what else he could do to help Sarah and Noah not just survive, but rebuild their lives. He picked up his phone and started making calls to contacts he knew could make a difference. The next day, Kiana met with the director of a community center he had supported in the past. She needs more than a roof over her head, he explained. She needs temporary housing, social support, and a job. Something stable to help her get back on her feet. The director nodded, impressed by Kiana's determination. We can arrange temporary housing and connect her with resources. And I'll see if we can help her find work. That afternoon, Kiana returned to the motel with more supplies, new clothes for Sarah and Noah, hygiene kits, and food. When Sarah opened the door, she looked at him with wide eyes. "You've already done so much," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't even know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," Kiana replied gently. "But I do have a plan to share with you." He sat with Sarah, explaining the community center's support and the temporary housing they could provide. He also mentioned potential job opportunities, ensuring she could choose what felt right for her. Sarah listened intently, overwhelmed by the kindness she was receiving. "Why are you doing this?" she asked finally, her voice trembling. "For us?" Kiana thought for a moment before answering. "Because I can. And because everyone deserves a chance to start over. If I have the resources to help, it's the right thing to do." A few days later, Kiana accompanied Sarah and Noah to the community center. The building was modest but welcoming, with clean rooms and a common area for families in need. Sarah was shown to a small room with a proper bed and a crib for Noah. As she looked around, tears welled up again. "I don't know how to repay you for this," she said, turning to Kiana. "This isn't about repayment," he said, smiling. "It's about giving you a chance. Focus on you and Noah. The rest will follow." Over the following weeks, Sarah began to rebuild her life with the center's support. She secured a part-time job as a receptionist at a small office. The work wasn't glamorous, but it gave her a renewed sense of purpose and stability. On her first day, Kiana walked her to the office door. "This is just the beginning," he said, giving her an encouraging smile. "You're going to do great." Sarah entered nervously but was met with kindness from her new colleagues. Each evening, she returned to the center tired but proud, knowing she was taking steps toward a brighter future for herself and Noah. One evening, as they sat in the community center's common area, Sarah looked at Kiana with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "I want to do what you've done for me," she said. "I want to help others one day, the way you've helped me." Kiana's smile widened. "That's the best way to pay it forward. Your story will inspire people. And remember, this isn't just about getting by, it's about building a life. For Sarah, the road ahead still held challenges. But with every step she took, she grew stronger. She had found hope again, not just through Kiana's kindness, but through her own resilience and determination. And as Kiana watched her journey unfold, he realized that helping Sarah and Noah had changed his life too, reminding him of the profound power of compassion and human connection. Together, they proved that even in the darkest moments, a single act of kindness could ignite a new beginning. Thank you for watching this heartwarming story on Empathy Stories. Kiana's actions remind us of the incredible power of compassion and how small acts of kindness can transform lives. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting tales. Together, let's spread empathy and hope to those who need it most.